The restaurant smelled like rosemary and wine. It was the kind of place that made you lower your voice without even realizing it. My mother had chosen it, of course nothing less than elegant for the Carter family reunion. She sat at the head of the long oak table, pearls glimmering under the chandelier, a smile stretched across her face like someone who'd already decided the tone of the day. I walked in quietly, holding Sophie's small hand and guiding Lucas through the narrow aisle. Their eyes were wide, soaking in the glow of candles and polished cutlery. "Mom, are we really eating here?" Lucas whispered. His voice carried a mix of awe and nervousness. I smiled. "We are. Try to behave, okay?" Across the table, my sister Rachel was already laughing with her husband David, a man whose watch probably cost more than my car. Their twin daughters, Ava and Lily, were unwrapping little gift bags Rachel had apparently arranged for them, small boxes with golden ribbons. Mom spotted me and raised her eyebrows. "Adeline, there you are, dear. We were starting to think you'd changed your mind." "I wouldn't miss it," I said softly, though every cell in my body wanted to. We'd barely sat down before Rachel began her usual chatter about vacations and business trips. She spoke the way people do when they know everyone's listening. David chuckled in all the right places. Mom beamed with pride, the way she always did when Rachel talked about something expensive. I glanced at the menu, though no one had offered me one. It was already decided, of course Rachel handled all the details. Sophie tugged at my sleeve. "Mommy, can I get spaghetti?" Before I could answer, Mom leaned in, lowering her voice just enough for everyone to hear. "Oh, sweetheart, we didn't order for your kids, Adeline. You should have packed something simple for them, sandwiches or snacks." I froze. The words hit like a slap, soft but stinging. Rachel gave an apologetic little laugh. "Mom, it's fine. They can share with Ava and Lily. Right, girls?" David added without looking up from his wine. "Next time, make sure to RSVP properly, Adeline. These set menus aren't flexible." There it was, the familiar sting of being the afterthought. I forced a smile, nodding, "Of course, copy that." Lucas looked at me confused. "Did we do something wrong?" he whispered. I shook my head, trying to sound casual. "Not at all, honey, just grown-up rules." The waiter appeared, balancing plates of creamy pasta and grilled salmon. The smell was intoxicating, and I could feel Sophie's eyes following the dishes. Each plate was set down carefully, one after the other, until the waiter reached me and hesitated. "Ma'am," he said softly, "should I bring something for the children?" Before I could open my mouth, Mom interjected with a sharp tone. No, they're fine, thank you." She smiled at him like she was saving him from extra work. The waiter's eyes flicked toward me, uncertain. I gave him a small nod. "It's all right," I said, even though it wasn't. When the food was served, Rachel's daughters squealed over the dessert box's chocolate mousse in glass jars, topped with gold flakes. "They're $65 each," Rachel announced, laughing as if it were a joke. Sophie's eyes widened. Lucas swallowed hard. I reached for my water and tried not to look at my kids' faces. Rachel leaned back, crossing her legs. "So, Adeline, how's work going? You're still at that library, right?" I nodded. "Yes, still there." She smiled the kind of smile that's meant to look kind but feels like judgment. "That's sweet. It must be peaceful." David smirked. "Peaceful doesn't pay much, though." Mom chuckled lightly. "Well, not everyone needs to chase money. Some people like simple lives." Simple lives, that phrase hung in the air like dust. I had lived a simple life ever since Ryan's death, but not because I wanted to, because I had to. Sophie shifted beside me, her small voice trembling. "Mommy, can I just get fries?" Rachel frowned slightly. Fries in a place like this. That did it. Something inside me snapped quietly, not like a crack, but like silk tearing. I looked at the waiter who had returned to refill glasses. "Excuse me," I said gently. "Could we please have a separate table by the window?" The entire table went silent. Mom's fork froze midair. "Adeline, what on earth for my kids?" I said simply. "We'd like to order our own food." Rachel laughed nervously. "Don't be ridiculous. You don't have to make a scene." "I'm not," I replied, standing. "I'm just ordering dinner for my children." The waiter nodded quickly and led us to a smaller table near the window. It was quieter there, away from the hum of family chatter. Lucas climbed onto the chair, looking unsure. Sophie folded her hands, whispering, "Are we in trouble?" "No," I said softly. "We're just doing things our way for a bit." When the waiter handed us menus, I let them pick. Sophie pointed at the spaghetti. Lucas wanted a burger. I ordered a salad for myself and 2 desserts because my children deserve sweetness tonight. When the food arrived, their faces lit up. Lucas took the first bite and grinned. "Mom, this is so good. Sophie giggled, her mouth full of whipped cream. Her laughter made me forget the sting for a moment. At the other table, I could feel eyes watching. Mom's definitely, Rachel's too. David's laughter had grown quieter. I didn't care. For the first time that day, I felt calm. When the waiter came back with the bill, he hesitated again, looking between our tables. I stood up, reached for the folder, and smiled. "I'll take care of it." He blinked. "Just your table, ma'am." "All of it," I said. He raised his brows but nodded, of course. As he walked away, Lucas whispered, "Mom, that's a lot of food. Are you sure?" I smiled at him. "Some things cost more than money, sweetheart." When the announcement came, "The lady by the window has covered the bill for everyone," the table went completely silent. I didn't look back, but I could feel it, the shift in the air. The quiet surprise, the embarrassment. Sophie reached for my hand. "Mommy, are we leaving now?" "Yes, love, let's go home." As we walked past their table, I felt Rachel's eyes on me, and Mom's confusion twisting into something else, not guilt, not yet, but awareness. At the door, I turned just enough to meet her gaze. "Thanks for inviting us," I said softly. Then I stepped out into the evening light, the cool air brushing my face. My heart felt heavy but strangely steady. Lucas slipped his hand into mine. "Mom, why didn't Grandma want us to eat?" I knelt down, brushing his hair back. "Sometimes people forget how to be kind, honey. But that doesn't mean we stop being kind ourselves." He nodded, thoughtful, and we started walking toward the car. Sophie hummed quietly beside me, holding the leftover dessert box like treasure. That night, after they were asleep, I sat by the window with a cup of tea. The city lights shimmered below, and the memory of that table kept replaying in my mind my mother's face, Rachel's laughter, the waiter's uncertain eyes. For years, I tried to keep peace by staying quiet. But today, for the first time, silence had felt heavier than speaking up. Maybe dignity wasn't about shouting or proving a point. Maybe it was just about knowing your worth and acting like it. As I looked at my children's sleeping faces, I realized I'd done something right. I'd shown them that kindness doesn't mean letting people walk over you. It means standing tall even when your voice shakes. What I didn't know was that this one small act would ripple through our family in ways I couldn't have imagined. Because a week later, I got a call from my mother, and it wasn't the kind of call I expected. The phone rang early on Monday morning, right when I was packing Lucas's lunchbox. The toast popped, the kettle whistled, and in the middle of that small domestic chaos, I saw Mom's name blinking on the screen. For a few seconds, I just stared at it. I wasn't angry anymore, but I wasn't ready either. Still, I answered, "Hi, Mom." Her voice was steady, polite. "Adeline, I hope I didn't wake you." "No, I was up, just getting the kids ready for school." A pause, then a breath. I wanted to talk about Saturday. My hands froze over the counter. "You mean the reunion?" "Yes." Another pause. I could hear her tapping something on the table, her nervous habit when she didn't know what to say. "I didn't realize you felt excluded. That wasn't my intention." I almost laughed, not out of humor, but disbelief. "You told my kids we didn't order for them, Mom." There was silence on the other end. Then softly, "I didn't mean it the way it sounded." "That's the thing," I said quietly. "It didn't just sound bad, it was bad. You humiliated me in front of everyone, and my kids heard every word." Her voice cracked slightly. "Adeline, you've always been so sensitive." "No, Mom." I interrupted. "I've always been quiet. There's a difference." She went silent again, and for a moment I felt something, guilt, sadness, maybe both. She was still my mother, even if she'd forgotten how to love me gently. "Anyway," she said after a pause, "I wanted to say thank you for paying the bill. You didn't have to." "I know," I replied. "I didn't do it for thanks." She hesitated. Rachel felt embarrassed, David too. "That wasn't my goal," I said. "But maybe embarrassment isn't the worst feeling for people who never feel anything at all." Her sigh carried across the line like wind through dry leaves. "You've changed, Adeline." I smiled faintly. Maybe I finally stopped pretending. That conversation lingered in my head all week. Mom's tone wasn't angry, but it wasn't apologetic either. It was uncertain, like she was seeing me through new eyes and didn't know whether to be proud or offended. By Thursday, Rachel texted, "Rachel, Mom's been quiet. You really upset her, Addie." Me, did I? Or did I just not play my part this time? "Rachel, you always make things harder than they need to be." I stared at the screen for a long time before putting the phone face down. I had spent years making things easier for everyone, laughing off rude comments, forgiving silence, swallowing humiliation. But all it had done was teach them they could treat me that way. That evening, Lucas came home with a drawing from school, 3 stick figures holding hands under a big blue sky. He'd written our names in shaky letters, Mom, Lucas, and Sophie. "Where's Dad?" I asked softly. He shrugged. "He's in the sky, but you're down here with us." It hit me harder than I expected. I hugged him tight, breathing in the smell of crayons and shampoo. "That's right, sweetheart. I'm right here." Friday night, just as I was cleaning up after dinner, there was a knock at the door. When I opened it, Mom stood there holding a box of pastries from Lorenzo's bistro. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. I nodded, stepping aside. She looked smaller somehow, her confidence tucked away. "I didn't expect you," I said as she sat down. "I know, I wanted to see you and the kids." She smiled faintly. "Are they asleep?" "They just went to bed." She nodded, then looked around the apartment, the soft yellow walls, the photos on the shelves. Her gaze landed on one of Ryan holding baby Lucas in the park. "I always liked that picture," she murmured. "He made you laugh so easily." "Yeah," I said, my throat tightening. "He did." There was a silence that wasn't uncomfortable, just heavy with things unsaid. Then she said softly, "I realized something after that dinner. Maybe I've been too hard on you." I looked at her, unsure if I'd heard right. She continued, "When your father died, I didn't know how to help you. I thought pushing you to be strong would save you from falling apart, but maybe I was just making you feel more alone." Her voice trembled slightly, and for the first time in years, she didn't sound like Eleanor Carter, the woman who ran everything like a business. She sounded like my mom. "I'm sorry, Adeline," she whispered. For what I said, for what I didn't say. I felt my eyes sting, but I held her gaze. "It hurt, Mom, not just that day, all the times before too." "I know," she said softly, "and I can't fix all of it. But maybe we can start with one meal." She opened the pastry box, little lemon tarts, Sophie's favorite. "I thought we could share these tomorrow. Maybe you and the kids can come over for lunch. I'll make spaghetti for everyone this time." That made me laugh, a small, surprised sound that broke the tension like glass cracking under warmth. "Okay," I said quietly, "we'll come." The next afternoon, when we arrived at her house, Rachel's car was already there. I almost turned back, but Sophie ran ahead, clutching her doll. "Grandma," she squealed. Mom came to the door, apron on, her face flushed from the stove. "You're early, come in." The smell of garlic and tomato sauce filled the house. On the counter were plates already set, one for everyone, including Lucas and Sophie. Rachel looked awkward, her eyes darting between us. "Hey, Addie," I nodded. "Hey." Mom wiped her hands on a towel. "Let's eat while it's warm." For the first few minutes, it was quiet, the kind of quiet where everyone's too aware of their own breathing. Then Lucas took a bite and said, "Mouth full, Grandma, this is really good." Mom smiled, her eyes softening. "I'm glad you think so, sweetheart." Rachel exhaled, relaxing a little. "It's been a crazy week." She muttered. I looked at her. "I didn't mean to embarrass you, Rachel. I just didn't want my kids to feel small." She sighed. "I know, I guess. I didn't think about how it looked. That's the thing." I said quietly, "You never do. None of you did. But maybe it's time we all start seeing each other differently." For once, she didn't argue. She just nodded. The air in the room shifted, not perfectly, not magically, but something softened. Mom reached for my hand across the table. "Adeline," she said, voice trembling slightly, "thank you for coming." I squeezed her hand back. "Thank you for inviting us." Sophie giggled beside me, twirling her fork. Lucas leaned back, smiling. For the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't at any family table piece. It wasn't the end of all the hurt, but it was a start. That night, as I tucked the kids into bed again, I thought about everything: the humiliation, the strength it took to stand up, the courage it took to forgive. People say family is forever, but I've learned that love isn't automatic just because you share a last name. You build it one honest moment at a time, and sometimes the hardest moments, the ones that break you open, are the ones that finally let the light in. I turned off the lamp, whispering, "Good night, my loves." Outside, the night was calm. For once, so was my heart. But little did I know, forgiveness had only opened the first door. The next chapter would show me what true redemption really looks like, not just for me, but for my mother, too. 3 months had passed since that afternoon lunch at Mom's house. For the first time in years, things were calm, not perfect, but better. Rachel and I talked occasionally, mostly about the kids, sometimes about old memories. And Mom, well, she called every Sunday. It was strange hearing her voice soften again. She'd ask about Lucas's spelling tests, about Sophie's ballet class. Sometimes she'd even tell me about her garden, how the roses weren't blooming like they used to, how the soil felt tired. She never said it outright, but I could hear it in her tone. She was lonely. One morning, I decided to visit unannounced. I bought croissants from the bakery down the street. the kind she used to love and drove over with Sophie in the backseat humming to a cartoon song. When we arrived, the front door was unlocked. "Mom," I called. No answer. I walked through the hallway, the faint scent of lavender and lemon polish in the air, and found her sitting at the dining table, hands wrapped around a cup of cold tea. "Mom," she looked up slowly, her eyes unfocused at first, then clear. "Oh, Adeline, I didn't hear you come in. You okay?" I asked. She smiled, but it was weak. "Just a little tired, dear, been feeling off lately." I frowned. "Off how? And nothing serious, probably just age catching up." But something in her voice, the way she said it, the forced calm told me otherwise. Over the next few weeks, the tiredness didn't fade. When I called, she sometimes didn't pick up. Rachel brushed it off, saying, "Mom's fine, Addie. You worry too much." But one evening, while I was helping Lucas with homework, my phone rang. Rachel, voice trembling. "Addie," she whispered, "Mom's in the hospital." My chest tightened. What happened? "She collapsed in the kitchen. They think it's her heart." I didn't even remember hanging up, just grabbing my keys and rushing out. The sterile scent of antiseptic hit me as I entered the hospital. Rachel stood by the vending machine, pale, holding a styrofoam cup of coffee. "She's stable," she said quickly. "They're running tests." I nodded, but my legs felt weak. "Can I see her?" Rachel hesitated, then nodded toward the end of the hall. When I stepped into the room, Mom was lying there pale against the white sheets, oxygen tube gently rising and falling with each breath. I moved closer, my throat tightening. For a moment, I saw not the sharp, demanding woman who'd raised me, but the fragile one beneath the one who'd hidden her love behind rules and expectations. Her eyes opened slowly. "Adeline." I smiled through the ache. "Hey, Mom." She tried to sit up, but I stopped her gently. "Don't, just rest." She exhaled. "I'm fine, just." My body finally decided to protest, I suppose. "Don't joke," I said softly. "You scared me." She looked at me, really looked, and whispered, "You've grown strong, my girl, stronger than I ever was." My eyes burned. "You made me strong, Mom, even when I didn't want to be." Her lips quivered in a faint smile. "You always did have your father's stubbornness." Mom recovered slowly, but something in her changed after that. She started calling more, not just to talk, but to listen. She'd ask me to bring the kids over for dinner every Friday, and this time she'd cook their favorite meals. She even apologized to Lucas one night out of nowhere. He looked confused. "For what, Grandma?" "For making your mommy feel small once. I didn't know better back then." Lucas blinked, then grinned. "It's okay. You make good pasta now." We all laughed, and something in me, something that had been broken for years, quietly healed. Months later, Mom invited us for her 70th birthday. She wanted it small, just family, she said. But when I arrived, I saw she'd gone all out. Balloons, candles, even a photo display along the wall. As I walked closer, I realized the photos weren't just of Rachel's perfect family, they were of me, too, my wedding, the kids, even one from that disastrous reunion night. There, taped neatly to the edge of the frame, was the restaurant receipt, folded, creased, but kept. I turned to her. "You kept this." She smiled gently. "That night changed everything. I didn't understand it then, but you were teaching me something I should have known all along." I frowned. "What's that?" "That love isn't control, it's respect." For a moment I couldn't speak. Tears welled up as I hugged her, really hugged her, without hesitation, without anger. She whispered into my hair, "You made me proud, Adeline, even when I didn't say it." I pulled back slightly. "You just did." Later that evening, as everyone was eating cake and laughing, Mom tapped her glass lightly with a spoon. "Before we end this night," she said, her voice steady, "I want to say something." Everyone fell silent. She turned toward me. "Adeline, my dear, I owe you the biggest apology of my life. For years, I measured love in obedience. I thought being strict meant being right, but I see now you didn't need my rules. You needed my faith." I felt tears stream down my face before I could stop them. Rachel reached for my hand under the table, squeezing gently. Mom continued, voice trembling now, "I wasn't a perfect mother, but I thank God he gave me a daughter brave enough to stand up even when it meant standing against me." The room was silent for a heartbeat, then applause broke out, soft at first, then louder. Lucas ran up and hugged her legs. "We love you, Grandma." She laughed through tears. "I love you too, sweetheart." After the guests left and the house grew quiet, I helped her clear the dishes. She leaned on the counter, looking tired but content. "You know," she said, smiling faintly, "you're a good mother, Adeline." I laughed softly. "I learned from both your mistakes and your strength." "Then maybe I did something right after all." "You did," I whispered. We stood there for a while, mother and daughter, finally at peace. 2 months later, Mom passed away in her sleep. No warning, no pain, just Peace, Rachel called me, sobbing. She looked calm, Addie, like she was dreaming. At the funeral, people spoke about her charity work, her leadership, her confidence, but I spoke about the woman I'd finally come to know. She wasn't perfect. I said softly at the podium, voice trembling, but she was brave enough to grow even at 70. When I looked down, I saw Sophie clutching my hand and Lucas holding a single rose. We placed it on her casket together. Weeks later, when I went through her things, I found a letter in her desk drawer addressed to me. It read, "My dearest Adeline, if you're reading this, I've finally gone where your father waits. I want you to know the night you stood up at that restaurant. I was angry, humiliated, and hurt, but deep down I was proud. You showed me that silence doesn't mean peace, and speaking up isn't disrespect, it's courage. I spent too long trying to make you into my reflection. You turned out to be my redemption instead. Love your children the way you wished I had loved you without conditions. I'll be watching, proud of the woman you became. Love, Mom." The paper blurred as tears filled my eyes. I folded it carefully, placed it in a small frame, and set it on my nightstand. That night, as I watched the rain trace lines on the window, I whispered, "Copy that, Mom."